I do. 2 simple words that were supposed to seal our love forever. Instead, in front of 200 guests, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I can't marry you. I never loved you." The gasps filled the church as my world collapsed. But he had no idea what I was hiding beneath the silk of my wedding dress. The journey that led me to that humiliating moment began 3 years ago. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth like most of the people who worked at Richardson and Partners, the prestigious law firm where I was a paralegal. My mother raised me alone in a small apartment on the outskirts of Boston after my father walked out when I was just 4 years old. Every night she'd come home exhausted from working double shifts as a nurse, yet she always found energy to help me with homework. "Education is the one thing nobody can take from you," she'd say, her eyes tired but determined. Those words became my mantra through years of struggle. I worked my way through college with scholarships and part-time jobs, graduated summa cum laude, and landed the paralegal position through sheer determination. The firm was my stepping stone. I was saving every penny to put myself through law school. That's where I met Andrew Blackwood, the firm's golden boy. Harvard law, old money, perfect teeth, and a smile that could charm anyone, including me. I still remember the first time he noticed me. I was staying late organizing files for a high-profile case. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. "You're still here?" he asked, loosening his tie as he walked toward my desk. "That's impressive. Dedication." His voice was warm honey, and when he smiled at me, something inside me melted. I should have known then that fire doesn't just warm. It burns. Andrew wasn't like the other attorneys who barely acknowledged my existence. He asked for my opinion on cases, brought me coffee in the mornings, and seemed genuinely interested in my dreams of becoming a lawyer. "You have a brilliant mind," he'd tell me. "You'll make an incredible attorney someday." No one had ever believed in me like that before, except my mother. Our relationship developed slowly. Coffee breaks turned into lunch dates, which turned into dinners. He took me to places I'd only seen in magazines, restaurants where a single meal cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I felt out of place, but Andrew made me feel like I belonged. "Don't be intimidated," he'd whisper, squeezing my hand under the table. "You're the most fascinating person here." 6 months after we started dating, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave her 3 months. I was devastated. Andrew was there for me through it all. The hospital visits, the tearful nights, the funeral arrangements. He held me when I sobbed after we scattered her ashes over the ocean she loved. "I'm here, Emma," he promised. "You're not alone." When he proposed 2 months after Mom's passing, I said yes without hesitation. Andrew had seen me at my lowest and still wanted to build a life with me. Or so I thought. I had no idea that behind those caring eyes lay a calculated plan that had nothing to do with love. Things started changing subtly after the engagement. Andrew began commenting on my clothes, suggesting I dress more appropriately for someone who would soon be a Blackwood. He introduced me to his family, old Boston aristocracy, who lived in a mansion that could fit my childhood apartment 20 times over. His mother, Vivian, looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of her designer shoe. "A paralegal? How industrious," she said, her smile never reaching her cold eyes. I tried harder. I studied etiquette books, changed my wardrobe, even started speaking differently. I was losing myself piece by piece, but I was so blinded by what I thought was love that I didn't even notice. Andrew would reward my efforts with approving nods or small compliments that I clung to like lifelines. "You're learning," he'd say, As if I were a pet mastering a new trick, the wedding planning was a nightmare. Vivian took over completely, dismissing my rare suggestions with a wave of her hand. "Darling, you simply don't understand these things," she'd say whenever I tried to have an opinion. Andrew always sided with her. "Mother knows best," he'd shrug, leaving me feeling small and insignificant. 3 weeks before the wedding, I accidentally discovered what lay beneath Andrew's charming facade. I was at his apartment, looking for a document he'd asked me to bring to the office, when I found his phone unlocked on the counter. A message notification flashed on the screen from someone, named Camilla. My stomach knotted as I read. "Missing you already. Last night was incredible. 3 more weeks of pretending and then we can stop hiding." With trembling hands, I scrolled through their conversation. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Andrew and Camilla, the daughter of the firm's senior partner, had been together for years. Their families had been planning their marriage, since they were children. But Camilla had insisted on finishing her year abroad in Paris before settling down. Andrew needed to keep his position at the firm secure, which meant staying in the senior partner's good graces, and that meant keeping his daughter happy. I was just a placeholder, a temporary distraction, a pawn in their game. I confronted Andrew that night, my voice shaking with rage and hurt. Instead of denying it, he laughed. Actually laughed. "Come on, Emma. Did you really think someone like me would end up with someone like you?" His words cut deeper than any knife could. "Your mother's medical bills were piling up. You were emotionally vulnerable. It was easy." I slapped him hard across the face, tears streaming down my cheeks. "The wedding is off," I choked out. But Andrew grabbed my wrist, his fingers digging painfully into my skin. His voice turned cold, calculating. "The wedding will happen exactly as planned. If you try to cancel it or tell anyone about this, I'll make sure you never work in law again. Not in this city, not in this country. One call from my family, and your dream of becoming an attorney vanishes forever." I knew he could do it. The Blackwoods had connections everywhere. Without a reference from Richardson and Partners, no law, school would accept me, no firm would hire me. Everything I'd worked for my entire life would disappear. I was trapped. For the next 3 weeks, I smiled through fittings and rehearsals, pretending nothing was wrong while dying inside. Andrew played his part perfectly, the devoted fiancé, excited to start our life together. Only I could see the contempt behind his eyes when no one was looking. I considered running away, disappearing to another city, starting over. But something inside me rebelled at the thought. Why should I be the one to lose everything? Why should they win? My mother hadn't raised me to surrender. She'd raised me to fight smart. And that's when I remembered what I had been gathering all along, without even realizing its true value. Since joining the firm, I'd been keeping meticulous records of everything, a habit my mother had instilled in me. "Always keep receipts," she used to say. "You never know when you'll need to prove your truth." Every late night I'd spent at the office, I had noticed things. Discrepancies in billing records, clients being overcharged, trust accounts that didn't add up. I had documentation of partners, including Andrew's future father-in-law, deliberately overbilling clients by hundreds of thousands of dollars. I had emails of them discussing how to hide it, all saved, all organized, all legally obtained through my legitimate work at the firm. I had dismissed these findings at first, telling myself it wasn't my place to question the firm's practices. But now they were my insurance policy, my weapon, my way out. The night before the wedding, I didn't sleep. I was putting the final touches on what would be my greatest act of both revenge and self-preservation. I created copies of all the evidence, storing them in multiple secure locations. I wrote detailed letters to the State Bar Association, the District Attorney's Office, and 3 major newspapers. And I sewed a small USB drive into the hidden pocket of my wedding dress. A dress that had cost more than my yearly rent, insisted upon by Vivian because appearances matter. Yes, appearances matter. And tomorrow, everyone would see the true face of the Blackwood family and Richardson and Partners. The morning of the wedding arrived with perfect blue skies. A beautiful day for justice. As my hired makeup artist concealed the dark circles under my eyes, I felt strangely calm. The hurt was still there, the betrayal still fresh. But something else had taken root alongside it. Purpose. "You look beautiful," my best friend Mia whispered as she helped me into my dress. She was my only bridesmaid. Andrew had insisted we keep the wedding party balanced, which meant I could only have one person standing with me while he had his brother as best man. Mia was the only person who suspected something was wrong, who had questioned why I seemed so detached from my own wedding planning. "Are you sure about this, Em? It's not too late to back out." I squeezed her hand. "I'm sure about what I'm doing," I replied carefully. "Just promise you'll still be standing by me at the end of today." She looked confused but nodded. Always, no matter what. The church was packed with over 200 guests, most of them Andrew's family, colleagues, and social connections. I recognized faces from magazines and newspapers. Boston's elite gathered to witness a Blackwood wedding. My side was embarrassingly sparse. Just a handful of friends and distant relatives. My mother's absence was a physical ache in my chest. As the wedding march began to play, I took a deep breath and began my walk down the aisle alone. There was no father to give me away. Poetic, considering I was about to give myself back. Andrew waited at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo, wearing the practiced smile I now recognized as false. Next to him stood his brother, and in the front row, Vivian dabbed at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, playing the role of emotional mother of the groom. 3 rows behind her, I spotted Camilla, her expression carefully neutral but her eyes burning with impatience, waiting for this charade to be over so she could claim what she considered rightfully hers. The minister began the ceremony with practiced solemnity. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." His words washed over me as I mentally prepared for what was to come. When he asked Andrew to recite his vows, my fiancé launched into a beautifully crafted speech about love, trust, and forever. Words written by the Blackwoods' PR consultant, no doubt. Then it was my turn, all eyes on me, expectant. But before I could speak, Andrew cleared his throat. Something flashed in his eyes. Was it panic? Guilt? Either way, it was too late. "I can't do this," he said, his voice carrying through the hushed church. "I can't marry you. I never loved you." The collective gasp was almost theatrical. This wasn't part of my plan, but somehow, Andrew had decided to derail the ceremony himself. Perhaps his conscience had finally kicked in. Or more likely, he and Camilla had decided this public humiliation would be the cleanest break. I stood there, feeling 200 pairs of eyes on me, waiting for me to crumble, to run crying from the altar. Vivian's expression was one of manufactured shock, poorly concealing satisfaction. Camilla didn't even try to hide her smirk. Instead, I smiled. "I know," I said, my voice steady and clear. "I've known for weeks that you never loved me, that this whole relationship was a convenient distraction while Camilla finished her time in Paris. I turned to face the guests. What Andrew doesn't know is what I've been hiding. I reached into the concealed pocket sewn into my dress and pulled out the USB drive. 3 years at Richardson and Partners taught me a lot about how the firm operates, including how the senior partners. I looked directly at Camilla's father, whose face had suddenly lost all color. Systematically defraud their clients through illegal billing practices. The silence in the church was absolute. I continued, my voice growing stronger with each word. Every altered timesheet, every inflated invoice, every misappropriation of client funds, it's all documented here. And not just here. Copies have been sent to the State Bar Association, the District Attorney's Office, and several news outlets, scheduled to be delivered on Monday morning. Andrew lunged toward me, reaching for the USB drive, his charming mask completely gone. "You're lying," he hissed, but the panic in his eyes told everyone the truth. "Back away from me, Andrew," I said loudly, stepping back. "Or the emails go out immediately instead of Monday." He froze. Camilla's father stood up, his face contorted with rage. "This is slander. Security. Remove her." But it was too late. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Journalists who had been invited to cover the society wedding of the year were already typing furiously on their phones. This was a much bigger story than they had anticipated. "I'm walking out of here with my dignity intact," I announced, which is more than I can say for the Blackwood family or Richardson and Partners after the truth comes out. I turned to Andrew one last time. "You thought you could use me and discard me. You thought I was nothing. But my mother taught me better than that. She taught me to keep receipts." I handed my bouquet to a stunned Mia and walked back down the aisle, head held high. As I passed Vivian, I paused briefly. By the way, the dress was hideously overpriced, but at least it had pockets. The chaos erupted behind me as I pushed open the church doors and stepped into the sunlight, leaving the Blackwoods and their carefully constructed world of privilege and corruption to implode on itself. Outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air. For the first time in months, I felt free. My phone was already buzzing with notifications. The story was breaking even before I reached the street. Mia caught up with me, her expression a mixture of shock and admiration. "Emma, that was... I don't even have words. Are you okay?" I nodded, surprising myself by actually meaning it. "I will be. This isn't how I imagined my wedding day would end, but it's exactly how it needed to." A car pulled up to the curb, the same one that was supposed to take Andrew and me to our reception. The driver looked confused, clearly unsure of protocol in this unprecedented situation. "The Plaza Hotel, please," I told him, sliding into the back seat with Mia. "There's a reception happening there, paid for by the Blackwoods. It would be a shame to let all that food and champagne go to waste." As the car pulled away from the church, I looked back at the crowd spilling onto the steps, at the reporters swarming like bees, at Andrew and his family trying desperately to contain the situation. The headlines tomorrow wouldn't be about the Society Wedding of the Year. They would be about one of Boston's oldest law firms facing criminal investigation. I had lost my mother. I had lost what I thought was love. But I hadn't lost myself, and that made all the difference. The Plaza Hotel ballroom had been transformed into a winter wonderland. Vivian's vision, not mine. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above tables, adorned with white roses and silver candelabras. An ice sculpture of intertwined swans stood melting, slowly at the center of the room, an unintentionally perfect metaphor for the Blackwood-Richardson alliance that was dissolving even as we arrived. The confused staff didn't know what to do when Mia and I walked in without the groom or any of the wedding party. The ceremony ended differently than expected. I explained to the flustered event coordinator, but since everything is paid for, we thought we might as well celebrate anyway. "Celebrate what exactly?" Mia whispered as we were led to the head table. "My independence," I replied, reaching for a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "And the beginning of the rest of my life." Within 30 minutes, the ballroom began filling. Not with the expected wedding guests, but with my side of the church. Friends from college, former co-workers who had always treated me with respect, distant cousins who had made the journey to support me. They arrived confused but quickly rallied around me when Mia explained the situation in hushed tones. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. News travels fast in Boston society circles, and even faster when several journalists witness the implosion of a high society wedding firsthand. I turned it off. Monday would come soon enough, and with it, the storm I had set in motion. Tonight was for reclaiming what should have been mine all along: joy. We ate the 5-course gourmet meal the Blackwoods had selected. We drank their rare vintage champagne. My college roommate Lisa found the DJ and convinced him to scrap the carefully curated playlist for something more upbeat. As "I Will Survive" blasted through the speakers, I kicked off the uncomfortable designer heels Vivian had insisted upon and danced in my bare feet, wedding dress swirling around me. For a moment, just a moment, I wondered if I had gone too far. The evidence I had gathered would likely result in criminal charges for several senior partners, including Camilla's father. The firm itself might not survive the scandal. Dozens of innocent employees, paralegals like me, administrative staff, junior associates who had nothing to do with the billing fraud, might lose their jobs. But then I remembered Andrew's cold laugh when I confronted him. "Did you really think someone like me would end up with someone like you?" The casual cruelty, the absolute certainty that he could use me and discard me without consequences because of who he was and who I wasn't. No, I hadn't gone too far. I had gone exactly far enough. Around midnight, as the impromptu celebration was winding down, my phone began ringing incessantly. Despite having turned it off, someone had apparently found a way to override that. A troubling demonstration of the Blackwoods' reach. When I finally answered, it was Andrew's father, William Blackwood III, his voice tight with controlled rage. "We need to talk," he said without preamble. "Name your price." I almost laughed. Of course they thought this was a negotiation, an extortion attempt. They couldn't conceive that this was about justice, not money. "I'm not interested in your money, Mr. Blackwood." "Everyone has a price," he insisted. "Name yours. Whatever it is, we'll pay it. Just hand over all copies of those documents and sign an NDA. Do you know what my mother did for a living, Mr. Blackwood? She was a nurse. For 30 years, she took care of people. Rich, poor, kind, difficult. With the same level of dignity and respect. She worked twice as hard as anyone should have to, for half the recognition she deserved. When she died, do you know what she left behind? Not money, not property. She left behind people whose lives she had touched, who remembered her kindness, her integrity." I paused, letting my words sink in. "That's the legacy I want. Not your money. Not a name bought through compromise. Just the knowledge that, when faced with a choice between easy comfort and hard-won dignity, I chose the latter." There was silence on the other end, then the sound of glass shattering. William throwing something in frustration, I assumed. "You have no idea what you're doing," he finally said, his voice low and dangerous. "The Blackwoods have weathered worse storms than some gold-digging paralegal with delusions of grandeur. By the time we're finished with you, no law school will accept you. No firm will hire you. You'll be lucky to get a job filing paperwork in some strip mall legal clinic." Fear flickered through me. They did have the power to make good on those threats, but I steadied myself, remembering that I held even more damaging information than they realized. "Perhaps," I conceded. "But by the time the dust settles on the Richardson and Partners scandal, the Blackwood name won't carry the weight it once did, and I'm willing to take that chance." I ended the call and turned to find Mia standing nearby, concern etched on her face. Was that them? What did they say? I slipped my phone into my pocket, the same pocket that had held the USB drive. Just the opening moves in what's going to be a very complicated chess game. She linked her arm through mine. "I don't know if you're the bravest or the craziest person I know. Maybe a bit of both," I admitted. "But I'm done letting other people write my story." The next morning, I woke to a pounding headache and dozens of missed calls. From Andrew, his parents, his family lawyer, and several numbers I didn't recognize. There were also emails from 3 different journalists requesting interviews, and one from a literary agent asking if I'd considered writing a book about my experience. I ignored them all, made coffee, and settled at my small kitchen table to plan my next moves. The Richardson and Partners evidence was my nuclear option, but I had deployed it primarily as a threat. The emails to the authorities and media were scheduled but hadn't been sent yet. I could still cancel them if necessary. The question was, what did I actually want? Not revenge, though that had been my initial driving emotion. Not money, though financial security would certainly help with my law school plans. What I wanted was what had been stolen from me. My future, my dignity, my chance to become the attorney I had worked so hard to become. By noon, my decision was made. I drafted a carefully worded email and sent it to William Blackwood, Andrew, Camilla's father, Gerald Richardson, and the managing partners of the firm. "Gentlemen," it began. "Yesterday's events were unfortunate but not irreversible. I have no desire to destroy careers or reputations if it can be avoided. Here are my terms. Richardson and Partners will institute a complete overhaul of its billing. Practices to be verified by an independent auditor. The firm will establish a scholarship fund for underprivileged students pursuing legal education. Named in honor of my mother, Eleanor Miller, I will receive a full recommendation to any law school of my choosing, plus compensation for emotional distress and 3 years' salary to cover my living expenses during law school. All parties will sign non-disparagement agreements. In return, I will not release the documentation I have gathered to the authorities or the media. You have until 5 p.m. today to accept these terms. After that, the emails will be sent automatically. I included my lawyer's contact information, a former professor from my undergraduate days, who had been more than happy to represent me when I called him that morning and explained the situation. Then I waited. The response came not via email, but in person. At precisely 3 p.m., there was a knock at my apartment door. When I looked through the peephole, I was surprised to see not William or Andrew, but Vivian Blackwood herself, impeccably dressed as always, but with dark circles under her, eyes that even her expensive concealer couldn't completely hide. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "Mrs. Blackwood, this is unexpected." Her gaze traveled around what she could see of my modest apartment, a flicker of distaste crossing her features before she composed herself. "May I come in? What I have to say is best discussed in private." Against my better judgment, I stepped aside to let her enter. She perched on the edge of my sofa as if afraid it might contaminate her designer outfit. "I'll get straight to the point," she said. "Your email has caused quite the stir. William wanted to fight, of course. Gerald Richardson was ready to flee the country. Not an exaggeration, I'm afraid. His passport was already in his pocket." She placed her Hermes handbag on the coffee table and extracted a manila envelope. "Inside you'll find a cashier's check for the amount you requested, plus an additional $50,000. You'll also find signed agreements to all your terms, including the scholarship fund, which will be established next month. What you won't find is a recommendation letter for law school." My heart sank. This was the one thing I wanted most, the chance to continue my career path without the black mark of having been fired from Richardson and Partners. Vivian must have read the disappointment on my face because she smiled. Not unkindly, which surprised me. "Instead, you'll find an acceptance letter from Harvard Law School for the fall semester, with a full scholarship. Not the Eleanor Miller Scholarship. That will go to other deserving students. This one comes directly from the Blackwood family foundation." I stared at her in disbelief. "I don't understand. Why would you do this?" Vivian smoothed an invisible wrinkle from her skirt. "Contrary to what you might think, I wasn't always Vivian Blackwood of the Boston Blackwoods. I grew up Vivian Kowalski in a small town outside of Pittsburgh. My father worked in the steel mills. My mother cleaned houses for the wealthy families in the better neighborhoods." This revelation stunned me into silence. Nothing about Vivian had ever suggested such humble origins. I worked my way through secretarial school, she continued, and eventually became the personal assistant to William's father. William and I fell in love. A scandal at the time. The heir to the Blackwood fortune and a secretary with a Polish last name. She looked around, my apartment again, this time with something like recognition in her eyes. I fought my way into this family. I endured the whispers, the condescension, the constant feeling of being an imposter. I learned their ways, adopted their values, became more Blackwood than the Blackwoods. And somewhere along the way, I forgot what it was like to be the outsider looking in. Vivian stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. "When Andrew told us he wanted to marry you, I was unkind. I saw in you what I had been, hungry for a better life, willing to work for it. It reminded me of parts of myself I had worked hard to bury. And then, when I learned about his arrangement with Camilla, I didn't stop it. I should have, but I didn't. For that, I am sorry. I couldn't reconcile this Vivian with the cold, judgmental woman I had known for the past year. Why are you telling me this? Why the Harvard acceptance?" She turned, back to face me. "Because you remind me of myself at your age. Determined, resilient, unwilling to be anyone's stepping stone. And because what my son and Gerald Richardson did was wrong. The Blackwoods protect their own. That's our family motto. But we also pay our debts, and we owe you." Vivian picked up her handbag and headed for the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. "One more thing. Andrew won't be bothering you again. He's being sent to manage our Tokyo office, effective immediately. Camilla, I understand, has decided to extend her stay in Paris indefinitely. It seems neither of them has the stomach for the scandal they so nearly caused." After she left, I sat staring at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Everything was as she had promised. The check, the agreements, the Harvard acceptance letter. I had gotten everything I wanted, but not in the way I had expected. That evening, as I was still processing the day's events, there was another knock at my door. This time it was Andrew. He looked terrible. Hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, designer suit wrinkled. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "No," I said firmly, blocking the doorway. "Say what you came to say and leave." He ran a hand through, his hair, a gesture I had once found endearing. "I wanted to apologize. What I did, what I was planning to do. It was unforgivable. Yes, it was. I never meant for it to go this far. It started as a casual thing, just a distraction while Camilla was away. But then you were so good, so genuine. Everyone in my world is playing an angle, but you were just yourself. I think I actually did fall for you, in my way. I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt. Just a vast emptiness where my feelings for him had once been. Your way wasn't good enough, Andrew. And your apology comes about 24 hours too late. I know. I need you to understand the pressure to be a Blackwood, to live up to the family name. Stop, I interrupted. Don't you dare make excuses. Your mother grew up with nothing, and she still managed to become someone with integrity. You had every advantage, every opportunity, and you chose to be cruel. That's not pressure, Andrew. That's character. His eyes widened at the mention of his mother's background. A family secret, apparently, that Vivian had chosen to share with me, but not with her own son. My mother? What are you talking about? I smiled sadly. Ask her yourself. Tokyo's a long flight. You'll have plenty of time to talk. Tokyo? What? Goodbye, Andrew, I said, closing the door on his confused face and, symbolically, on that chapter of my life. Later that night, as I sat on my small balcony looking at the stars, my phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of a legal document, a receipt for the establishment of the Eleanor Miller Scholarship Fund at Boston University Law School, with an initial endowment of $5 million. Below the photo was a simple message: debts paid. Good luck at Harvard. 3 months later, I stood in front of the imposing entrance to Harvard Law School, textbooks in hand, ready for my first day of classes. The Eleanor Miller Scholarship had already selected its first recipients, 3 promising students from disadvantaged backgrounds who might otherwise never have had the opportunity to pursue legal education. Richardson and Partners had undergone a complete restructuring, with Gerald Richardson and 2 other senior partners quietly retiring ahead of what would have been career-ending investigations. The firm's new leadership had instituted transparent billing practices and a robust ethics training program, becoming something of a model for other firms in the industry. As for me, I was no longer just Emma Miller, the paralegal from the wrong side of town who had been jilted at the altar in spectacular fashion. I was Emma Miller, Harvard Law, class of 2028, future attorney, my mother's daughter. The scandal had faded from the headlines, but its impact remained. Occasionally, I would catch other students whispering when I passed, or professors giving me curious glances. Being known as the woman who had brought one of Boston's oldest law firms to its knees was both a burden and a badge of honor. Had declined all interview requests and turned down the book deal. This story, my story, wasn't meant for public consumption. It was my private victory, my testament to the strength my mother had instilled in me. On my first day of criminal law, the professor, a renowned legal scholar who had argued multiple cases before the Supreme Court, called on me. "Ms. Miller," he said, peering at me over his glasses. "In your opinion, what is justice?" The classroom fell silent, all eyes turning to me. They were expecting something dramatic, perhaps, some declaration about revenge or retribution given, what they thought they knew about my past. I thought about my mother who had worked honest days for honest pay, about Andrew, who had nearly destroyed me but ultimately set me free, about Vivian, who had recognized in me the fighter she had once been, about the scholarship recipients who would now have the chances I had nearly lost. Justice isn't about punishing wrongdoers, I said finally. Though that's sometimes necessary. It's about restoring balance, about making sure that what was broken is mended, what was stolen is returned, what was hidden is revealed. Most of all, it's about ensuring that the story doesn't end with the powerful winning simply because they're powerful, the professor nodded, slowly. An interesting perspective, Ms. Miller, and one I suspect you've come by firsthand. Yes, I agreed, holding my head high. You could say I've learned it by heart. 1 year into Harvard Law, I had settled into a rhythm. The coursework was grueling but exhilarating. Complex legal theories, constitutional interpretations, case precedents that shaped our nation's history. I thrived in the pressure cooker environment. My mind sharpened by the challenge. Professor Abernathy, my constitutional law professor, had become something of a mentor, recognizing in me the same hunger for justice that had defined his own illustrious career. You have a natural instinct for the law, Ms. Miller, he told me after I had successfully argued a complex First Amendment case in our moot court. But more importantly, you understand that behind every legal principle are real people with real lives at stake. I had made friends too, genuine connections with classmates who respected my intelligence and work ethic. My past was neither hidden nor flaunted. It was simply part of who I was. The woman who had stood up to corruption, the woman who had turned humiliation into triumph. And then, on a crisp October morning, as I was rushing to my civil procedure class, I literally collided with him. Dr. James Chen, visiting professor of medical ethics and law. Books scattered across the pathway, apologies exchanged, and when our eyes met, something electric passed between us. "I'm so sorry," he said, helping gather my textbooks. I was completely distracted reviewing these case notes. Law and neuroscience, I observed, glancing at his papers. That's a fascinating intersection. His smile was warm, his eyes intelligent behind wire-rimmed glasses. It is. The question of how advances in brain imaging might affect legal considerations of intent and culpability is... He stopped himself with a self-deprecating laugh. And now I'm rambling about my research to someone who was just trying to get to class. I don't mind, I said truthfully. It sounds fascinating. We introduced ourselves properly. James was 34, a neurosurgeon who had gone back for his law degree after seeing how many of his patients struggled with insurance companies and medical malpractice issues. He was at Harvard for a semester, teaching while completing a book on medical ethics. Coffee sometime, he suggested. I promised to limit my neuroscience enthusiasm to reasonable levels. I hesitated only briefly before agreeing. After Andrew, I had sworn off dating entirely, focusing instead on rebuilding my life and career. But something about James's earnest enthusiasm and lack of pretension drew me in. Our coffee date turned into dinner, which turned into weekend walks through Boston Common, which turned into countless conversations about everything from legal, philosophy to our favorite ice cream flavors. James knew about my past. Everyone at Harvard Law did to some extent. But he never treated me like a curiosity or a scandal. To him, I was just Emma, brilliant, determined, occasionally stubborn, Emma. "You know what I admire about you?" he said one evening as we sat on a bench overlooking the Charles River. You could have let what happened destroy you. You could have become bitter or cynical. But instead you turned it into fuel for something positive. I leaned my head against his shoulder, allowing myself to feel the simple happiness of the moment. I had a good example. My mother never let circumstances define her. She always said we don't get to choose what happens to us, but we do get to choose how we respond. 6 months into our relationship, I received an unexpected email from Vivian Blackwood. Annual Blackwood Foundation Gala. The subject line read. Inside was a formal invitation to the most prestigious charity event in Boston, hosted by the Blackwood family at their historic mansion. Why would she invite me? I wondered aloud to James as we discussed it over dinner. The last thing the Blackwoods would want is a reminder of their family scandal at their gala. James considered this, his analytical mind, both medical and legal, processing the possibilities. Maybe it's an olive branch, or perhaps she genuinely respects what you've accomplished since then. I wasn't convinced. Or it could be a trap, a way to publicly humiliate me, as I humiliated Andrew. There's only one way to find out, James pointed out. And if it is some kind of setup, wouldn't you rather face it head-on than wonder? He was right, of course. Running from potential conflict had never been my style. Besides, I was curious to see what Vivian had in mind. Our strange connection. The Polish girl from Pittsburgh, who had remade herself and the nurse's daughter, who had refused to be broken, had remained with me long after our last interaction. Will you come with me? I asked James. Try to stop me. He replied with a smile that made my heart flutter. Besides, I want to see the look on their faces when you walk in. The night of the gala arrived and I chose my outfit carefully. An elegant but understated midnight blue gown that projected confidence without ostentation. James looked handsome in his tuxedo, his steady presence beside me, a reminder of how far I had come from that humiliating day at the altar. As our taxi approached the Blackwood mansion, my stomach knotted with anxiety. I had not seen Andrew since our last confrontation at my apartment door, though I had heard through the Harvard grapevine that he was back from Tokyo, apparently having failed to impress in his international role. Camilla, too, had returned to Boston, their long-planned merger apparently back on track despite the scandal. Ready? James asked, squeezing my hand as the taxi stopped at the imposing entrance. I took a deep breath. Ready. The Blackwood mansion was even more impressive on the inside than I remembered from my few visits during my engagement. Crystal chandeliers illuminated artwork worth millions, while Boston's elite mingled in designer finery, champagne flutes in hand. A string quartet played softly in one corner, and waiters circulated with trays of canapes that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Heads turned as James and I entered. Whispers followed us like ripples in a pond. I held my head, high, refusing to be intimidated. We were legitimate guests with printed invitations. They couldn't throw us out without causing a scene, something the image-conscious Blackwoods would never risk. Vivian spotted us almost immediately, breaking away from a conversation with what appeared to be a state senator to approach us. She looked older than I remembered, the strain of the past year evident in the new lines around her eyes. "Emma," she said warmly, air-kissing my cheek as if we were old friends. "I'm so glad you could make it. And this must be Dr. Chen. Your reputation precedes you, Doctor. Your paper on ethical considerations in experimental neural implants was quite thought-provoking." James looked surprised but pleased. "Thank you, Mrs. Blackwood. I'm impressed you've read it." "The Blackwood Foundation has interests in medical research," she explained smoothly. "We like to stay informed on emerging ethical questions." She linked, her arm through mine in a gesture of false familiarity. Come, let me introduce you to some people who might be interested in the Eleanor Miller Scholarship. We're quite proud of how it's developing." As she led us through the crowd, I tried to spot Andrew or Camilla, but they were nowhere to be seen. Vivian introduced us to various influential figures, judges, politicians, university deans, all of whom seemed genuinely interested in my law school experience and the scholarship named for my mother. The scholarship has already helped 7 students from disadvantaged backgrounds enter top law schools. I explained to the dean of a prestigious university. We're hoping to expand it to include mentorship opportunities and guaranteed summer internships. Impressive. The dean nodded. And quite personal to you, I understand. My mother believed education was the key to changing lives, I said simply. I'm just trying to honor that belief. Throughout these conversations, Vivian remained by my side, adding comments about the Blackwood Foundation's commitment to educational equity that sounded rehearsed but sincere. It was as if she was presenting me to Boston society as her protégé, rather than the woman who had almost brought down her family's reputation. As the evening progressed, I began to relax slightly, even enjoying some aspects of the event. James charmed everyone he spoke with, his combination of medical expertise and legal knowledge making him a sought-after conversation partner. I watched him with a warmth in my chest that I was only just beginning to acknowledge might be love. Then, suddenly, the room hushed. I turned to see what had caused the collective intake of breath. Andrew had entered, Camilla on his arm. She was stunning in a red gown that probably cost more than a year's tuition, diamonds glittering at her throat, and ears. They made a picture-perfect couple. Boston aristocracy personified. Andrew scanned the room, his gaze eventually landing on me. Even from across the crowded ballroom, I could see him stiffen in recognition. He whispered something to Camilla, whose eyes narrowed as she followed his line of sight. Then, surprisingly, they began making their way directly toward us. Vivian's hand tightened on my arm. "I should have warned you," she murmured. William insisted they attend. Family solidarity and all that. Just remember, you belong here now, as much as they do. James moved closer to my side, a protective gesture that gave me courage. When Andrew and Camilla reached us, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Mother." Andrew greeted Vivian stiffly, pointedly ignoring me. "Father is looking for you. Something about the donation announcement." "In a moment," Vivian replied coolly. "I was just discussing the Eleanor Miller Scholarship with Emma and Dr. Chen. It's become quite a success story for the foundation." Andrew's jaw tightened. "Has it?" His eyes finally shifted to me, cold and dismissive. "How charitable." Camilla's perfect smile didn't reach her eyes. "Emma, what a surprise to see you here. I thought you'd be busy with whatever it is you do now." "Harvard Law?" I replied pleasantly. "First in my class, actually. And this is Dr. James Chen, neurosurgeon and visiting professor of medical ethics and law." I turned to James with genuine warmth. "James, this is Andrew Blackwood and Camilla Richardson." James extended his hand with professional courtesy. "Pleasure to meet you both." Andrew ignored the outstretched hand. "Mother, Father is waiting. The announcement needs to be made before the senator leaves." "Of course." Vivian nodded, but her expression was calculating. "Emma, Dr. Chen, why don't you join us? After all, tonight's announcement directly involves the scholarship." Before Andrew could protest, Vivian was already guiding us toward the grand staircase, where William Blackwood stood waiting with a microphone. Andrew and Camilla had no choice but to follow, their displeasure evident in every rigid line of their Bodies! William's eyebrows rose slightly at the sight of me, but recovered quickly. He was nothing if not a consummate performer in public. As the room quieted, he began his prepared speech about the Blackwood Foundation's commitment to philanthropy and social responsibility. Tonight, he announced grandly, I am pleased to share that the Blackwood Foundation is expanding its educational initiatives. The Eleanor Miller Scholarship, which currently supports law students from disadvantaged backgrounds, will be extended to include medical students as well, with a specific focus on those pursuing careers in underserved communities. Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. William continued, This expansion represents a $5 million additional commitment over the next 5 years, and to ensure the program's success, we are establishing a dedicated board to oversee both scholarship programs. He paused for dramatic effect, his gaze sweeping the room. I am pleased to announce that Emma Miller, Harvard Law and the inspiration behind the original scholarship, has agreed to chair this board, working directly with the Blackwood Foundation to shape the future of these initiatives. I froze in shock. This was the first I had heard of any such arrangement. Beside me, I felt James stiffen in surprise as well. Andrew's face had gone pale with fury, while Camilla looked as if she'd bitten into something sour. Vivian leaned close to whisper in my ear, Surprise. We can discuss the details later, but I assure you the offer is genuine. The foundation needs someone with your perspective. William was continuing his speech, but I barely heard the words. My mind was racing. Was this another manipulation? A way to co-opt my mother's legacy and bring me under the Blackwood control? Or was it something else? A genuine opportunity to expand the scholarship's impact, to help more students like me. And then it hit me. This wasn't about control. It was about image. The Blackwoods needed me now. The inspiring success story, the brilliant law student who had overcome adversity. By bringing me into their fold, they weren't erasing the scandal. They were rewriting it into a redemption narrative. The humiliated bride became the valued colleague. The family embarrassment transformed into a philanthropic triumph. It was calculating, self-serving, and exactly what I would expect from the Blackwoods. But did that mean I should refuse? As William concluded his speech to enthusiastic applause, I caught Andrew staring at me with undisguised hatred. In that moment, I made my decision. When William handed me the microphone with a practiced smile, I stepped forward confidently. Thank you, Mr. Blackwood, for this generous expansion of the Eleanor Miller Scholarship. My mother was a nurse who dedicated her life to caring for others. She would be deeply moved to know that her legacy will now help future medical professionals, as well as lawyers. I paused, making eye contact with various members of the audience. I am honored to accept the position as chair of the scholarship board. Education changed my life, as many of you know. Through this program, we can change thousands more. The crowd applauded again, more enthusiastically this time. I could feel Andrew's glare burning into me, but I ignored it, focusing instead on the future. Not just mine, but the future of every student who would benefit from the scholarship. As we stepped away from the spotlight, Camilla cornered me while Andrew pulled his mother aside for what appeared to be a heated conversation. I hope you're satisfied, Camilla hissed, her perfect smile still in place for anyone watching. First you humiliate Andrew at your wedding, then you blackmail his family, and now you're insinuating yourself into their foundation. What's your endgame here? James moved to intervene, but I placed a gentle hand on his arm. I could handle Camilla. Endgame, as you put it, is to create opportunities for people who weren't born with the advantages you and Andrew take for. Granted, if that bothers you, perhaps you should examine why. Don't pretend this is about charity, she sneered. We both know you're enjoying this, seeing Andrew suffer, watching his family embrace the woman who tried to destroy them. It's pathetic, really." I studied her perfect face, her flawless makeup, her confidence born of a lifetime of privilege. For a moment, I almost pitied her. "You know what's pathetic, Camilla? Believing that your worth comes from who you marry rather than what you do. Andrew and I would have been a disaster, not because of our different backgrounds, but because we wanted different things from life. He wanted a trophy, and you want status. Congratulations, you're perfect for each other." Her face flushed with anger. "You have no idea what Andrew and I have together. You were just a distraction, a novelty. He was always coming back to me." "Then why are you so threatened by me being here?" I asked quietly. "If you're so secure in your relationship, why does my presence bother you at all?" Before she could respond, James gently took my elbow. "I believe they're serving dinner now, Emma. Shall we find our seats?" As we walked away, I glanced back to see Camilla's composed facade cracking slightly, uncertainty flashing in her eyes before she smoothed, her features back into practiced serenity. Dinner was an elaborate affair, each course more extravagant than the last. James and I were seated at the head table with the Blackwoods, a pointed statement to everyone present about my new position within their circle. Andrew and Camilla were placed several seats away, not quite exiled, but definitely diminished. Throughout the meal, Vivian engaged me in conversation about the scholarship program, outlining her vision for its expansion with genuine enthusiasm. William occasionally joined in, his initial frostiness thawing somewhat as the evening progressed. It was surreal, sitting with the family that had once dismissed me as unworthy, now treating me as a valued partner. "We should meet next week to discuss the board structure," Vivian suggested as dessert was served. "I have some ideas about potential members who could bring valuable perspectives." "I'd like to suggest some candidates as well," I replied. "People who understand the challenges of pursuing higher education without financial support or family connections." William nodded, surprisingly receptive. "That would be valuable. The foundation could benefit from more diverse viewpoints. From..." Down the table I heard Andrew's derisive snort, but everyone pretended not to notice. After dinner, as the dancing began, James led me to the floor. As we swayed to the music, I finally relaxed into his arms, the tension of the evening seeping from my shoulders. "You were magnificent tonight," he murmured. "The way you handled Andrew and Camilla, the speech, all of it. Your mother would be proud." I thought about my mom, her hard work, her integrity, her unwavering belief in my potential. I think she would be. Not because I'm at a fancy gala or chairing a foundation board, but because I didn't let them win. I didn't let them define me. "No, one could define you but yourself, Emma," James said softly. "That's what makes you extraordinary." Over his shoulder, I noticed Andrew watching us from the edge of the dance floor, his expression unreadable. Camilla was nowhere to be seen. As our eyes met, I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, not even satisfaction at his discomfort. He was simply a chapter in my story that had ended, a detour that had ultimately led me to where I needed to be. I turned my attention back to James, to the present, to the future we might build together. "Thank you for coming with me tonight, for standing by me. Always," he promised, and I believed him. Later that evening, as we prepared to leave, Vivian pulled me aside for a private word. "You did well tonight, better than I expected." "Was this your plan all along?" I asked. "Bring me here, announce the position without warning me, see how I handled it." She smiled enigmatically. Let's just say I had faith in your abilities. The Blackwood Foundation needs someone like you, someone who can't be intimidated or bought, someone who remembers where they came from. Someone like you used to be, I suggested. A flash of something. Recognition, regret, respect crossed her face. Perhaps, though I think you'll do better at holding on to yourself than I did. She glanced across the room to where William was engaged in conversation with a group of politicians. We make compromises in life, Emma. The trick is knowing which ones you can live with. And this? I gestured around the opulent ballroom. All of this was worth it? Vivian considered the question seriously. For me, yes. For you? That's something only you can decide. As she walked away, I realized she had given me something valuable. Not just the scholarship or the position, but a glimpse of a possible future. One where success didn't have to mean becoming someone else. Where power could be used for something. Beyond self-interest, James found me lost in thought. Ready to go? I nodded, taking one last look around the Blackwood mansion. At the wealth, the influence, the carefully cultivated image. It wasn't my world, and it never would be. But perhaps I could use their resources without becoming what they were. Perhaps that was a compromise I could live with. Outside, the night air was cool and clean after the perfumed atmosphere of the ballroom. James hailed a taxi, and as we settled into the back seat, he took my hand. So, Foundation Board Chair Miller, what's next? I leaned against his shoulder, suddenly exhausted but deeply content. First, sleep. Then tomorrow we start, planning how to use those Blackwood millions to help people who actually deserve it. And us? He asked softly. What's next for us? I looked up into his kind, intelligent eyes, so different from Andrew's calculating gaze. With James, there were no games, no hidden agendas, no performances. Just two people who respected and cared for each other. I think, I said carefully, that we're writing that story one day at a time, and I'm in no hurry to skip ahead. He smiled, pulling me closer. I like that plan. As the taxi carried us through the streets of Boston, away from the Blackwood mansion, and toward my modest apartment, I thought about my mother. About her sacrifices, her integrity, her unwavering love. Education is the one thing nobody can take from you, she had always said. She was right, but she had given me something else just as valuable. The strength to stand up after being knocked down, the wisdom to turn pain into purpose, the courage to rewrite my own ending. At my wedding, Andrew had said he never loved me, intending those words to destroy me. Instead, they had set me free. The USB drive hidden in my wedding dress had been my insurance policy, but my real power had come from within, from the values my mother had instilled in me, from my own determination to not be defined by someone else's cruelty. 2 years later, I stood on the stage at Harvard Law School's graduation ceremony, valedictorian of my class. As I looked out at the sea of faces, I spotted James in the front row, beaming with pride. Beside him sat Vivian Blackwood, elegantly dressed as always, but with genuine approval in her eyes. My valedictory speech wasn't about triumph over adversity or revenge served cold. It was about justice. True justice that lifts people up rather than tearing them down. It was about using privilege and power to open doors rather than shut them. Most of all, it was about writing your own story when others try to write it for you. Many of you know parts of my story, I told my fellow graduates. The sensational parts made headlines, The painful parts kept me awake at night, but the most important parts happened quietly, in classrooms and courtrooms, in late-night study sessions and early morning runs along the Charles River, in conversations and connections that reshaped my understanding of what justice really means. I paused, my gaze falling on James's encouraging smile. My mother used to say that education is the one thing nobody can take from you. Today, as we leave Harvard Law with our hard-earned degrees, I want to add something to that wisdom. Your story is the one thing nobody can write but you. Not your family, not your partners, not your critics or your champions, just you, one page at a time. The Eleanor Miller Scholarship had by then helped 43 students enter top law and medical schools. Andrew and Camilla had married and moved to London, where the Blackwood name carried less specific history. And I had accepted a position at the district attorney's office, turning down far more lucrative offers from private firms. I wanted to be where I could do the most good, where justice wasn't measured in billable hours but in lives changed. James and I moved into a comfortable but modest home near the harbor. On clear days, we could see the ocean, the same ocean where I had scattered my mother's ashes 4 years earlier. Sometimes I would stand at the window, watching the waves, and imagine her pride at what her daughter had become. Not a Blackwood bride, not a revenge-seeking victim, not even Foundation Board Chair Miller, just Emma, attorney at law, champion of educational equity, a woman who had taken the shattered pieces of humiliation and built something beautiful and lasting from them. In my home office, I kept only one memento from my almost wedding day, a small square of silk cut from the hidden pocket of my dress, the pocket that had held the USB drive, the evidence, the power to write my own ending. It wasn't about the revenge or the scandal anymore. It was a reminder that sometimes our greatest strength lies hidden within us, waiting for the moment when we need it most. At our wedding, he said he never loved me, but he'd forgotten what. I was hiding in my dress. Not just evidence of corruption, but courage, resilience, and the unwavering belief that my story wasn't over. It was just beginning.